We're live. What's up, people? Welcome to Frisian Sports. This is a weekly sports show where we talk about sports topics, some of the top sports topics in sports during the week. We give our opinions on it, and we also diverge on other topics, and really just talk about whatever we really want to talk about or what you guys want to talk about. So I encourage everyone to click the link on the side, or maybe it's on the video. I'm not exactly sure where it is, but there's definitely a link to click, and then if you click that link, then it will open up a question and answer app, and that can make it easier for us to answer your questions, interact with you guys. It should be pretty cool. All right, but as always, we are joined by Miles Dawkins, and we are absolutely ecstatic to have Toxic and Orange back with us. How you guys doing this week?
Doing pretty good, man. Doing really good.
Yeah. What have you guys been up to?
Nothing, man. Same old. Taking care of the kids. You know what I mean? Working, bringing in that cheddar, waiting on Madden 15. Just got a lot of things looking forward to, man.
Bringing in that cheddar cheese.
Yes, sir.
Definitely. Same with me, except for minus the kids part. And as well as just preparing for my semester, for the fall semester that I start in the next week. So getting all my stuff organized for that. And otherwise, yeah, just pretty much chilling and working a lot.
Yeah, me too, man. Me too. Just crying over the A's and ecstatic for the Brewers right now. So it's been an up and down week. But let's jump into it. So today we're going to be talking about the NFL preseason. We are into week 3, correct?
Yes, sir. Yeah, week 3 is starting tonight with Philly and Pittsburgh.
Yep. And then we're going to talk about women in sports, and that's going to kind of lead into the Little League World Series with Monet Davis and stuff. And then we're also going to talk about the biggest disappointments in baseball this season, the players. Who do we think just didn't live up to expectations this year? And then we're going to talk about whatever else comes to our minds. So it's going to be a good day. So let's start with the NFL preseason. Dawkins, as always, you can lead it off. What were some of your surprises or disappointments in the NFL preseason? Who do you think made an impact? Who do you think didn't?
As far as impact goes, I can't really say that anybody really did. I like the way that Teddy Bridgewater played. You know, I like the stuff that he was doing in his game. Of course, everybody's talking about the Cleveland Browns. Seems like everybody's talking about the Cleveland Browns this whole preseason. And both quarterbacks in the Monday night game versus the Skins, it was ugly. It was just downright awful. Hoyer, he played like garbage. Manziel didn't play no better. And this kind of, is what the Cleveland Browns are, and this is what I expect them to be. I expect them to have a great defense, and I expect them to have a offense that's going to have to rely on Ben Tate a lot, and I don't think Ben Tate is going to, be that special back to, like, get the job done and stuff like that. So, again, I think it's going to be another season where you can have probably 2 quarterbacks fighting it out to be the start of the whole year, and you have a great defense that it's not going to be enough to get them even to 8-8. I saw a lot of people on NFL Network saying, "Oh, they're probably going to win eight games. Probably go." Even one of them said 9-7. I'm like, that's not going to happen.
Wait, like the Browns?
Yeah, the Browns. Some people said 8-8, 9-7, and I'm like, if we're going to base it off of that Monday night game, that's not going to happen. I would like to speak upon my Niners. People are kind of worried about the Niners. People have to realize that the Niners didn't start Patrick Willis that game. We did not start Justin Smith that game versus the Broncos. Frank Gore only had 2 carries and stuff like that. So basically, our whole defense was on the field. We know that Navarro Bowman is out until like November, most likely. So I'm not worried as a Niner fan. As this preseason, we have a lot of people on the roster that we're trying to give looks, and we're trying to see what these guys can do to see if we can use them in the regular season. So I'm not too worried about that. But the Bears, the Bears are playing pretty well. The Raiders, they look decent at best. So I'm definitely excited, for the upcoming games. There's one tonight, and then of course throughout the week, my Niners will be playing the Chargers. So I'm looking forward to it. But nothing that really stood out to me. Just I was shocked just how bad Manziel looked and how bad Hoyer looked in the Monday night game.
Yeah, I mean, also like considering that they played almost the whole game, and they went up against like the second team defense. You know.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it wasn't a good game at all. It just wasn't.
Um, like, but if you're a Browns fan, are you like waving the red flag right now? Like your starting quarterbacks aren't producing.
I mean, the starting quarterbacks have never produced. You know what I mean? Uh, I don't know. If I'm a Cleveland Browns fan, I'm definitely looking forward to the future. But I would compare the Browns kind of like to the Houston Astros. You know what I mean?
Mm.
You kind of want to see what this team can do. You're not really expecting too much, but you will show up to the games and you will tune in, to the majority of the games because you want to see, you want to see progression and stuff like that. I want to see Joe Hayden really take that next step and really solidify himself as a top 3 corner in the league. You want to see if that defense can get pressure and stuff like that. And of course, you want to see what Brian Hoyer can do because again, we can't change the fact that Brian Hoyer as a starter is 3-0 in the regular season.
Regular season, yeah.
Yeah.
Tox, what do you think about the Browns QB competition, man? Who do you think should start? Do you agree with that the Hoyer's starting? What do you think?
Yeah, I think I agree with the Hoyer thing. He does have a little bit more experience than Manziel, and actually there was an article earlier the other day where Manziel was fine with being the backup and working his way up. So even though all this criticism goes on Manziel and his partying and everything like that. And as well as that little finger flip to the other team, he was humble enough to say that he still needs to grow and mature, and he's willing to do that as the backup. So the Browns do have, I feel, a good building block for this season, seeing how well Hoyer holds up, and if he does well. Browns should be good, but I mean, if he starts struggling or whatnot, of course you'll start hearing calls for Manziel and everything like that to start. So it should be exciting either way as the season progresses for the Browns and see what they can do, like what Dawkins was saying against some of the other competition. Because again, they are normally at the lowest bottom end of the. Out of all NFL teams, they're usually right there at the bottom. So who knows? Maybe they can surprise them this year.
Yeah, for sure. One of the things that from this week, as I look back, is as a Redskins fan, you're worried right now. I yes, you want to say that it's just preseason, but I feel like. I don't know. I'm afraid that RG3 doesn't really know how to play the game correctly. Like, and then I'm not talking about him sliding down or anything like that. Trying to protect his body because that's just how he plays. But I think that a lot of his mistakes and a lot of the pressure that's on his shoulders, I don't think that he's going to be able to deal with that. Now, I think that in order for them to start winning more games, they obviously need to use that great running back Morris that they have. But I also, but I'm also worried for that organization also because I'm not 100% positive that he's a starting quarterback, that he's like the franchise quarterback that they want him to be. So that was like just watching that Monday night game. I was like, maybe possibly some red flags, but again, it's early. Like who really knows?
Yeah, and you also have to remember that the Browns do have a pretty good defense.
They do. Manziel, Hoyer. I would have liked to see Manziel start. I feel like there's not really any point in the whole like, oh, well, he needs to learn and all that stuff. Like, just throw him out there because at the end of the day, he is a better quarterback than Hoyer is. And unless Hoyer is your franchise quarterback, there's no need to even have a competition at this point. They both look like they're kind of at the same point in their learning stages, and you go with the guy that people want to see, especially when you're struggling to sell tickets and you're one of the laughing stocks of the league. You want to be recognized as a possible contender, even though a lot of people think that they aren't contenders. Like 8-8, like you said, Dawkins is a stretch, but you want to be considered by many as contenders, and the only way they can do that is to play somebody like Johnny Football. So or I guess Johnny Cleveland Football is what it is now. I don't know, but whatever it is, and his whole like middle finger gesture, I like that kind of stuff. I like that kind of stuff, because it shows that he's egotistical, but he has to be egotistical. He has to be confident in himself. He has to think that he's better than everyone else, and so I liked it. I really liked it.
Wow. Okay.
What?
No, because I remember, David Ortiz saying what he said.
Jeez, no.
I'm just saying. David Ortiz said.
If he started.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, David Ortiz said what he said right after the bombings, during the Boston Marathon. Like, that was right after. Like, that was a day or two after. Johnny Manziel gets frustrated and throws the middle finger up, and that's okay.
Yes, it is.
For sure.
All right.
Let's make a shot.
Are there any more storylines or topics that you guys want to talk about in the preseason? I mean, it's still early, so we don't really know that much yet about like cuts and stuff like that.
It's definitely still early, but I think just out of the 3 top rookie quarterbacks, definitely Blake Bortles is playing the best. You know what I mean? Teddy Bridgewater showed some flashes versus Arizona. I really like the game that he played. Johnny Manziel, I do agree with you that Johnny Manziel definitely is the future. I can't see Brian Hoyer being, the starting guy there forever. But I do feel like Brian Hoyer is better than Johnny Manziel is right now. He has a better grasp of things right now. I feel like the offense works a lot better, even though he played god-awful versus some of the Redskins. I feel like Johnny Manziel hasn't done enough to solidify himself as the starter. So I really think down in Jacksonville is going to be Blake's job to lose. I know right now he's still the backup quarterback, but he'd probably be the first rookie to start in this season.
Yeah. What about, do you think, who do you think is going to have a better career based on preseason? David Carr of the Raiders or Johnny Manziel?
Off of preseason? For me, I like Carr. You know what I mean? Just because I feel like he's a better passer.
You think he's in a better situation in Oakland? Like they're looking for a franchise quarterback because they've never really had one?
Well, yeah. Everybody who drafted one of these guys is looking for a franchise quarterback, probably except for the Patriots. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, I think Derek Carr, he has a chance to start somewhere during the season. Based off of preseason, though, I would have to go with Carr. Carr actually moved the team up and down the field when he was in last week. He's not going to play this week because he bruised his ribs or whatever. But last week he was able to move the ball up and down the field. He threw a nice pass down the sideline to Greg Little. It was a beautiful ball. I haven't seen that beautiful ball from Johnny Manziel yet. I haven't seen Johnny Manziel really move the ball up and down the field. His one touchdown pass was really like a shovel pass, so like that really doesn't count in my book. So as of right now, I think David Carr is a more NFL-ready quarterback. Johnny Manziel still has those wow plays, but there's one thing that people have to remember is that Johnny Manziel isn't really a read option quarterback. Neither was really Tim Tebow. Tim Tebow was just the best running quarterback that they had at Florida, so they ran the ball with him a lot. Johnny Manziel ran like a 4.8. There's DNs in the NFL today that run faster than that. Jadeveon Clowney ran a 4.5. J.J. Watt, is eating that up. So I don't see Johnny Manziel being that dynamic using his legs if it's going to be a read option type of stuff because RG3 ran a 4.443, and even he began caught. You know what I mean? So Johnny Manziel is really going to have to dial down and work on his passing game, get the ball to the receivers on time, on target, because running around in the NFL, unless you Michael Vick or RG3 or Randall Cunningham or Steve Young, is not a good thing. Especially when you ain't that fast. You run a 4.840, I can run that backwards.
Yeah. Okay. Cam Newton. Now, before when I'm
Cam the truth
in there, man, but he is a beast, my friend, and he's Carolina's going to be good this year if he stays healthy, stay on the field. It sucks that he doesn't really have any wide receivers to help him out. He's in a bad situation in that respect. But I think that he's a great quarterback, and I really like that guy, man. Again, it's just preseason, but, I kind of like it. All right. So let's move on, and let's talk about women in sports. Now, this is a topic mostly because of Monet Davis' She has been pitching spectacularly in the Little League World Series. Do you guys see women ever being able to, not being able to because they can, but I don't want to sound sexist, but do you see women ever being having the opportunity to play in a professional sport with men?
Professionally, no, no. Um, what she's doing in the little league is phenomenal. You know, what I mean, I believe she had a no hitter or a perfect game, something like that. Like what she's doing is freaking crazy. But the only person, and I'm saying this with a straight face, the only person that I saw that had talent enough to play Division 1 football with the guys, who's a girl, is Nick Mangold's sister, and that's not even a lie. Nick Mangold's sister, Nick Mangold plays for the Jets center, right? His sister was an offensive lineman in high school, and she was beasting. She set the record for like the strongest squat in the whole state of Ohio. You know what I mean? Like she was on the Olympic team this year. She got hurt. I believe it was gymnastics or weightlifting. I believe it's something like that. But she's a flat out monster. She was a flat out monster. She could push guys left and right. And again, it wasn't high school, but Ohio is known for having great high school football players and stuff like that. But that's the only one. I think that, at this age is the perfect age for girls to play with boys because, the testosterone hasn't kicked in yet. You know what I mean? A lot of these guys, are still, haven't developed muscle and stuff like that. But as far as when you get older, no. Because guys are just, and I'm not trying to be sexist, but it's a reality. Guys are just superior athletes when it comes to almost anything. You know what I mean? If you take the fastest woman alive and put her up against Usain Bolt, she's gonna lose, and she's gonna lose by like a full second. You know what I mean? The strongest woman can't outlift the strongest man in the world. So I like the fact that they have allowed her to play in this situation. I like the fact that they allow females to play in high school and stuff like that. I really do. I had a girl on my high school football team. You know what I mean? And we really didn't have a problem with it. But when you start getting up there in age and these guys are developing muscle and stuff like that, a woman is not going to be able to develop the same type of muscle. So to answer your question, no, I don't think a woman will ever play, I guess, with the men, professionally, at that level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think, Tux? Go ahead.
I was going to say, yeah. It definitely it depends on the sport as well, too. I mean, of course, what Dawkins is saying is more related to football, and that's for sure. Basketball, they're just a little bit more physical. I think that in that as well, too. Just because they're able to jump higher and everything like that, have a little bit more versatility than women are. So it's kind of difficult to see a female NBA player, although they do have an NBA female coach now, assistant coach in San Antonio, Popovich.
Yeah.
That's a step in the new direction, as well as baseball. That one's a tricky one because I mean you could see potentially like a girl playing because if she's able to somehow be able to make pitches such as a knuckleball and everything like that and have a repertoire. You don't necessarily have to be the fastest or hardest thrower in baseball to make it to the major leagues and play in the major leagues. You can get away with 80 plus miles per hour and whatnot, which is, I think, capable maybe later in the future for a woman that may want to. Although it does beg the differ of their hitting, so maybe you might be able to see a female pitcher, just maybe not like a female infielder or outfielder or power hitter. For sure, you won't do that in the major leagues. Soccer, the game I feel is just a little bit faster. The speed of the game is definitely a lot faster for I think a female to keep up with like professional males in that regard, and that also includes strength as well too. And the only ones I kind of see is anything that isn't dealing with like physical strength or agility or things like that. And like NASCAR, they do have Danica Patrick and everything like that, and that's so she's That is a different type of sport where it's not necessarily dealing with physical strength every day or every other day throughout like a whole weeks and
Mhm.
months and everything like that, compared to the sports that we consider major sports, compared to NASCAR, which only some people think as a sport, or um, but it's more or less just racing and being able to have your sharpness when you're driving the cars and everything like that, and be able to maneuver the cars well. So that's why you're able to see actually a female professional racing with all the males and that. So again, it goes back to the certain type of sports, what we consider major sporting and things like that. So for like the major sporting events, it's definitely really tough, and I don't know if we'll see a girl. See a girl playing with men in those professional sports. The only one I can think of that's close would be baseball,
Yeah.
capable, and otherwise, any other ones that are at the lowest end of sports, such as the NASCAR I was saying before, already have a female professional. So um, it's just everybody's take on what they think is like an actual sport, I guess you could say, like what they think is a sport.
Yeah. Um, Dawkins and Tox, you guys hit the nail right on the head. Like, physicality is so different between men and women. And football, like you said, Dawkins, never. Because, uh, I mean, I don't want to sound sexist, but I mean, we're just not built the same, you know, and it just wouldn't work out in football. But like you said, Tox, baseball, NASCAR, uh, sports that don't have like golf, sports that don't have physical contact as prevalent as football or basketball, then maybe I could see it happening. But it all starts with the with like with this is gonna sound really bad. In order for this to happen in baseball, what they have to do is they have to get rid of softball because softball is what makes keeps women down. I because there's so much like the mechanics of softball compared to baseball are so different. In softball, the mound is closer. You got pitch underhand. The ball is bigger. The fences are not as far out, and that will always keep women down. I think because men can always say, "Well, you play softball," like you'll never play baseball. So I think in order for this to possibly happen, and I really hope that it does, just because, like I said, like there are some women who can kick my ass in sports, and they're like
And then there are two
50% of them.
you know, playing baseball and playing Major League Baseball at that time because of the war and everything like that.
Yeah, exactly. So it's definitely possible to happen, and I really hope that it does. But they got to give it a softball. They got to totally destroy that. And I mean, and I'm not saying that softball is like a women game or anything because men do play softball on occasion. Like there are like men's softball leagues and stuff like that. But what it really like women have to start participating, and this is why it's so cool that Monet Davis has done what she's done. Women have to start participating in these sports, and men have to start allowing women to participate in baseball activities. Now, again, if this were to happen, you'd have to deal with the whole locker room situation and testosterone and stuff like that. Because obviously, if a woman gets struck out by if a woman strikes out a guy would be absolutely furious about that. I could see David Ortiz throwing a fit. So you really you really have to obviously there will be some problems, but I really do hope it happens, and yeah, it just starts with getting rid of softball, in terms of like the women's sport. It's just a stigma with it. All right. Awesome. Do you guys have anything else to talk about on that subject before we move on?
No, brother.
Okay, brother. Racist. Okay. Let's let's move on. Now let's talk about the biggest disappointments in baseball this season. Now, there have been a lot of players who we thought were last season. We thought that we were going to see the next power hitter in Chris Davis. We thought that we were going to see Josh Donaldson become a star in Oakland. We thought that we were going to see Owen Cespedes become a star in Oakland. We thought that we were going to see, Jacoby Ellsbury take the reins from Derek Jeter and become a star in New York. There's all these images in our head at the beginning of the season that we thought were going to happen, but some didn't. So what do you guys think? Like, when you're just thinking about this, who do you think is our biggest disappointments in baseball this year?
For me, it's probably Ellsbury or whatever because I think everybody here agreed that the Yankees probably overpaid to get him. But again, that market and he was with the Red Sox last year, they felt like it was worth it, but clearly it wasn't. And it is only one season in New York, but again, like you said, people thought that he was going to be maybe the next great Yankee, and as of right now, it really hasn't panned out. But for me, I really have to go with the team. Over any players. And for me, it's the Rangers.
Ooh.
49 wins, 77 losses. A lot of people picked them to be battling, with the Angels and with the A's for the top two spots. A lot of people felt like there could have been 3 teams out of this, a division possibly to represent, the AL West in the playoffs. And the Rangers just stunk it up. To be below the Houston Astros is not a good thing. So even though there are a lot of players that did not produce this year, especially like a Chris Davis, even though he was battling injuries in the beginning of the season, for me I gotta go with the Rangers. Only winning 49 games isn't good at all.
Yeah, sure. What do you think, Tox?
I think I guess you could say. As a player, I would have to say probably my biggest disappointment would be, let me see, because I got a few big disappointment players, but my biggest one would probably be maybe Ryan Howard with the Phillies. I mean, he hasn't really done and he's got that big mega contract still and everything like that. And so it's just disappointing to see like a team like the Phillies who were contenders a few years ago and everything like that and have all this money to throw at him and other players on the team for them to be for them to have a bad season this year and for him to have a bad season as well too. And not being able to lead the team that well is a major disappointment. I guess you would have to say for as a team though, my big disappointment team is the Red Sox after coming off of a championship season and then going to the gutter of the AL division. So it's just disappointing to see them having not made that much of a, I guess you could say, off-season and transactions and trades and signings and things like that. They were quiet on that front, thinking that they could repeat with all the players that they had. And so they didn't necessarily make any major moves to improve. And then, of course, losing Ellsbury was another factor to it, too. Even though Ellsbury has been struggling to be a star in New York, but again, the Red Sox as a whole team is just pretty much any major league team that comes off a championship season and doesn't make the playoffs after that, and especially being at the bottom end of their division, is just you always have to make that as a huge disappointment, and so that's why, as the team, the Red Sox are my biggest disappointment team for this year.
All right. I have a list.
We knew you had a list.
I have a list because I love lists, man. I make a list to go to the grocery store. I make a list to talk about busts in baseball this year. Jacoby Ellsbury is on my list. Huge money, new face of an organization, and you bat 280. Now, this just shows how one player can impact a team so tremendously, which is why, again, let's not go into it, but I mean, Derek Jeter is still there, role player, but he can't do it. But whatever, whatever. So But you saw what Cano could do. Huge disappointment, Jacoby Ellsbury. Pedro Alvarez. Huge disappointment. I thought he was going to have a great year this year. I picked him, I think, in my fantasy draft at like the 3rd round. He had a spectacular year last year, and now he is stinking up the joint. And again, this is when you have to start thinking, were steroids prevalent in his season last year? Because like you said, he had a like I said, he had a monster year. Mike Moustakas of the Kansas City Royals. Oh, man. There was a time when people thought that he was going to be the next Evan Longoria, and now people are saying that he is going to be the next, well, bad player. So that is so sad to see, especially on a Kansas City Royals team that really is like pushing to keep their top spot. If he can just start hitting, then that will be amazing. But like he has the potential to be a number 3 guy with Hosmer and Alex Gordon up there, the top of that lineup. But right now he is not doing that. He's hitting like 220s at the bottom of the lineup. It's so disappointing if you're a Royals fan. Josh Donaldson has to be on my list as well. Unbelievable, man. This guy, again, was supposed to be the star of an organization, the franchise of an organization. You don't care about Cespedes anymore because we're keeping Donaldson. We don't care about Crisp anymore because we're keeping Donaldson. We don't care about anyone because we're keeping Donaldson. Well, guess what? Donaldson has been unproductive this year. And when we need offense, when we need someone to take the reins and lead this team into the playoffs, he's not doing that. He's striking out when he needs to get a single. He's overswinging things. He's popping up because he's trying to hit home runs when that's really not his game. You know, he's a double kind of guy. He's not a power threat, but he's trying to be a power threat. So I think that's a huge problem for him. He's a major disappointment this year. Who else is on my list? Well, those I think are the only ones. What?
Matt Cain, he's been a pretty big disappointment too.
Matt Cain, yep, definitely a disappointment. Oh yes, okay. I hate to say this. Ryan Braun, big disappointment this year. 300, I think right now it's like 280 or something like that. But I wanted him to have a great year. He hasn't eclipsed 20 home runs this season. His RBI numbers are okay, but you just don't see that type of power from him anymore, which is very alarming, especially me.
Steroids.
I know, right? Like, especially me being a Brewers fan, I want to say that, you know, steroids weren't evident, but he's just not the same Ryan Braun that we're accustomed to see. Yes, some people may say that you can account it to the fact that he has a lot of pressure on his shoulders right now. Maybe, I don't know, but
maybe because he ain't juicing no more
or something. Shut up. That's not why. But yes, big disappointment from him. Staying on the Brewers, Gene Segura, unbelievable, man. This guy was gonna bat number 2. It was gonna be Gomez Segura at the top of the lineup. Unfortunately, he's now batting 9th. He's hitting like 220. His defense is amazing, but he's a huge disappointment this year. Prince Fielder, another huge disappointment. Sin-Soo Choo, huge disappointment. Dawkins, you mentioned it. His team, the Rangers, amazingly huge disappointment. So yeah, that's my list. Now that I've like ranted for about 20 minutes, but that's my list. So. All right. Those are our topics. Do you guys have anything else you guys may want to talk about?
I know me and you were talking about the DH.
Yes. Oh, yes. All right. So earlier, the new commissioner indicated that he wanted to bring the DH to the National League. That was one of... Yeah, you heard that, Tox? What a dumbass. So this is something, Tox, your team are the Giants, so I guess we'll start with you on this. What do you think about bringing the DH to the National League?
National League, I don't. That's what makes it the National League unique and competitive. and just you're taking away from pitchers' capabilities as well too. Like you have like hitters. There are some pitchers, for example, Madison Bumgarner, who can swing the bat, who have power.
Yeah.
You would be taking that away, and most likely replacing it with somebody who won't be able to do that as much, and would probably be considered having to play the role because there's not that many DHs that can play like David Ortiz can. Just coming into the game with like pretty much no warm-ups, anything like that, and just hit. So trying to bring that into the National League, I don't see that as a positive too much. I mean, if you're looking at it from a perspective of saving pitchers from potential injuries and things like that, I mean, that's the only thing I can think of in order for it to be, I guess, approved in the National League. But again, the two, I would say, just keep it the way it is because it's not. There's nothing wrong with the system. It's not broken or anything like that. This is just another way of just trying to get, I guess you could say, make a statement for the new commissioner for making like something game changing in the league. So that would be his thing coming in as the commissioner. So he just wants to, it sounds like he just wants to try to make this into a staple of his beginning legacy as a commissioner. And I don't see any benefits for the National League because then it changes up the aspect too. Like when it comes to playoffs and everything like that, especially like the World Series when they do have to bring the teams when the AL teams play against the National League teams in the National League ballpark. You have to see them adjust and everything like that, and it's fun to see and exciting. And you can see that too from time to time in the interleague. So I mean, it's fine when they do like the interleague because that's only like a few times during the season you'll see some NL teams do DHing, and so that's fine. But I don't see it as beneficial to do it full time in the National League as well, because they already did have the staple of an extra wild card, and that makes the game for the playoff chases a lot better. But I don't see how the DH then makes the game
yes.
a lot more as exciting as that type.
Preach, my friend.
So.
You are a preacher of the good word, my friend. All right. Dawkins, I know that you're chomping at the bit, man. What do you think about this? Because we had a conversation about this, and you kept me grounded.
Yeah. I think you you had a different perspective than Tox, and when me and you were talking, I kind of said the same thing that Tox was saying. Now, I'm kind of in favor for it, just only because, in my honest opinion, I'm more of a fan of the AL. I like the DH, you know what I mean? Even though Bumgarner is a pitcher, one of few that does have, the capability of going deep, and there's somebody who's a pitcher who can get on base consistently. There's not too many of them really out there. But to Tox's point, there's more strategy involved in the NL game. It's more diverse in the NL game. A lot of the games are more competitive and stuff like that. But I think that this commissioner might be looking at, the regular season numbers, and those numbers got to be down. Almost all the games that we see, the stadium is half full and stuff like that. So for the strategy aspect, for keeping the NL unique and different from the AL, I'm all for keeping it the way that it is. I see where the commissioner is coming from because, Livin, you brought up a great point that Bug Silly saying that one of the main issues with baseball is that it was too slow when the guys going out of the batter backs and stuff like that. So I think this might be an effort to maybe speed the game up. I really don't know how true that is because it's still going to have the same amount of people batting and stuff like that. But just as somebody who, especially in the beginning, when baseball is fresh and stuff, I do watch it for like a good month and then call me when September comes around. But One thing that does tick me off about the NL is a lot of times you will see the pitcher go up there, not swing the bat, have no intention of swinging the bat, and just take 3 pitches. You know what I mean? And this, as a sports fan, as a competitive, person, as somebody who loves a challenge, to me, that's kind of like discrediting the game. Even though I understand why, even though I do understand why, but just for me, I think that at times it's more fun to watch the AL during the regular season. Now, during the playoffs, I'm all for the strategy. During the playoffs, I'm all for the bunts, sacrifice bunts and stuff like that, and all that stuff, and strategizing. Your game plan around, maybe pitch hitting for the pitcher and stuff like that. But for the regular season, I probably am a bigger fan of the AL. But that's just my opinion. But for Tox's point, I totally agree with Tox, but I could see why they might want to move to having a DH in the NL. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I could see why they want to do it.
Yeah.
One last thing too for me though, is that about the speed of the game. The slowest games are by AL teams, though. Majority of the slowest games, such as the Red Sox, they have always been accused of having really slow games that take so long and everything like that. And that's what the DH. I don't see how the DH would speed up the game.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I really didn't understand that point of it, but maybe that's where the thinking is. But again, that's very it's a misconception really. That having a DH on the NL is going to make the game faster.
Yeah.
It's backwards thinking, if you will.
Yeah. One of the reasons was if you wanted to be more excited, like score more runs and stuff.
Yeah, I mean.
Why DH? But okay. Yes. Go ahead.
No, yeah, I was just gonna make my last point is that there probably is more scoring over there in the AL, and if you look at the NFL, it used to be defense, defensive ball game. Games were in the 80s. Some got to the 90s. And if it got to the 90s, that was a high-scoring game. Now, if the game doesn't crack, triple digits, it's not a high-scoring game no more. So I think maybe that would be another reason to have, I guess, a better chance for more points being scored. But at the end of the day, I like the way that it is. It's just, again, I'm a casual baseball fan. So speaking for the casual baseball fans, I kind of prefer watching the AL. But again, when it's playoff time and the Giants are in it, I'm all for the NL because there is more strategy involved.
Yeah. All right. That's awesome, guys. I'm gonna say something.
Say something then.
And I don't want to be.
Let it rain.
Let me finish before you jump in, because this may open up a can of worms.
Let's do it.
David Ortiz has ruined the game, and I say that because of this. And it's not my prejudice. I'm going to say this first. I totally respect his hitting ability and his clutchness, if that's even a word. I respect that 100% of the time. What he's done for Boston is amazing. But there's an old saying: if it's broke, don't fix it. If he were to have failed as a DH, we would not be having this conversation right now. We'd be talking about getting rid of the DH in the AL. You can make an argument that he is one of the most popular and recognizable DHs that this game has ever seen. Now, it's not his fault that he's so good at what he does. That's just what he is. He is a tailor-made DH, and thus he is great at what he does. But if he had, like I said, unfortunately, because he was so good, what that does, and kind of to Tox's point, I think, Miles, you touched on this a little bit as well. What that did is it made it so that pitchers aren't required, a lot of pitchers aren't required to keep their hitting skills crisp and on point when they go into the minors. Because if we look at athletes in college, in the college game, and even in the Little League World Series, these pitchers can hit. These are athletes out there. We're not looking at guys, except for that one guy. I don't know his name, whatever. He was hitting a bunch of home runs, that hamburger guy. But you look at all these other guys, they're athletes. And even in college, they're athletes. And then and position. Pitchers can hit. And that's just how it is. But then in the minors, with there being a possibility of a DH, and minors are really just tune-up games. Like, no one goes into the minors saying, okay, so I'm going to be a minor leaguer for the rest of my career. Everyone has that aspiration to be a major leaguer. And thus, they go through training, and they go through all of these sessions and try this coaching to be a major league player. So from a pitcher's perspective, they go in here knowing, okay, so I don't really have to hit. And Dawkins, this is something that you mentioned too. Like, it's annoying. It's not annoying, I guess, but it's very frustrating as a competitor to see someone go up to the plate. Like, I remember, I distinctly remember when Pedro Martinez got up there and like literally stood there, didn't swing, took 3 pitches and got struck out, and people were laughing about it, you know. And I was like, this is a professional athlete, you know, and literally it's just acceptable that he's not an athlete. I mean, this is the only sport where it's okay to say, hey, you know what? Fuck this. I only have one job to do, and I'm just gonna stand here and throw pitches. You know, I don't have to worry about anything else. I don't even have to worry about hitting the ball. So because of that, it's frustrating for someone who loves the game and has and to see the stigma over the game of baseball players not being athletes and not really needing to do that much, because you know you look at it and you're like, oh well, David Ortiz succeeded in it. You know, David Ortiz can do it, so maybe the DH isn't that bad. Maybe we should just keep using the DH. I hope that it doesn't come over to the NL, but go ahead, Dawkins.
Yeah, I mean, me and you talked about this earlier, and again, I agree with you, and I do agree with Tox. One thing that we haven't touched on in this conversation, and we were talking about first basemen, and yes, there are some talented first basemen with gloves in their hands and stuff like that, but the majority of them really aren't, you know, the best athletes in the field. Nobody would consider a first baseman to be the best fielder, you know, in the whole wide world. So to me, you know, a Mark McGwire in St. Louis, he basically was a DH. You know, I mean, yeah, yes, he was at first base, but for the most part, he was a DH. You didn't really ask him to do too much in the field besides just catching the ball and you know, and getting people out at first. You know, so to that point, and then to the point with the pitchers and stuff like that. Again, I see it as a negative because I feel like. And just growing in the world and you know, being a man of business and stuff like that, you have to keep your fans happy. Yes, the ultimate the ultimate goal is to grow, and maybe that's what baseball is trying to do, is maybe grow on the sport to make it more popular. But if people are gonna dislike it, people are gonna say no, keep the DH over there in the AL and piss a lot of fans off, and you know, over here that like the Giants or the Dodgers and stuff like that, then definitely it's a bad idea. But for the most part, I always view the first baseman as a glorified DH anyway. They're just out there on the field with the glove, but you don't really ask them to do too much. You know what I mean? So I totally see your guys' point, but just as a casual baseball fan, on whatever's going to put, you know, I guess more butts in the seats, I would be all for it, you know, if it would improve the game. But if it's not going to improve the game, there's really no point.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I don't think it necessarily would improve the game because, I mean, I don't see enough talent-wise in the major leagues to make up that DH for the rest of the teams in the National League. Because right now already you see some of the DHs in the American League, and they're not doing so hot, respectively. And you see a lot of strikeouts even with the DH. It's more or less feel as a protection for like health-wise. So like then you could do instead of having, for example, like with the Giants, having Buster Posey play a first base to keep him sharp and everything like that, and away from injury as catcher, would be to put him in the DH spot as a protection for his health only. That's how I see it. But otherwise, if you're specifically looking for DHs, there's not really, I mean, ones that are necessarily improved enough. Because I agree to your respect of the pitchers. A lot of their deals are just thinking of just pitching, but I feel more or less that's more the mentality of the American League pitchers. I mean, you'll see some, like here and there, like in the National League, some pitchers acting that way, but more or less a lot of them enjoy putting in that extra effort to try to get the base on the bat or get the bat on the ball and everything like that and try to help their team more besides just the pitching aspect. Because if they can help themselves in batting, then they actually feel a lot better about it in the long run and everything like that, because they feel they're making even more of a difference instead of just sitting there relying on somebody else trying to make runs for you and everything like that. Whereas a pitcher that can hit, he can take it into his own hands if he wanted to in the game. And if continues in the future, some teams will be looking for pitchers that can hit the ball like a Madison Bumgarner and whatnot, and those will be, and to train them more in their minor league system so then they can hit as well as pitch. And so that would make the game even more exciting to see that than just having an average 240, 230 hitter as a DH or something like that, and not necessarily have the best wheels or anything like that either. So that's how I see it. As there's just not a David Ortiz is like a monster into himself as a DH, and so you're not going to. And same with Victor Martinez. Those are players that are rare DH players that
Great point.
the rest at that location, whereas all the other teams, DHs definitely do not come even close to being able to produce as well as they can. So for me, I just don't see it as a positive for the National League at all.
Great point. When you're saying that, I think of like Jack Cust, who used to play for the A's, and Adam Dunn is another one. Yeah, for sure. All right, sounds good, guys. Great job. Yay. All right. Yay. All right. So, do you guys have anything else that you would like to talk about before we do our minute to preach it and get out of here?
No, man. I think that's it, bruh.
All right. Awesome. Who wants to go first?
It seems like I always do, so I'll kick it off.
Oh, you know what? Let's switch it off. I actually got something today.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, it's good.
All right. So today I'm going to be talking about Tim Howard taking a hiatus from the United States national team. He said that he doesn't want to be considered for reasons that I haven't really figured out. He is at the top of his game. He is an elite player, and yes, you can make the argument that he's mentally exhausted from a World Cup, and now he has to go and play with Everton, who's definite contenders for the Barclays Premier League title and all that stuff. But a guy that has always had controversy surrounding him, obviously with Sigma being an American player and American players not really being productive in the Barclays Premier League, and finally we have one. This is when you want to give it all, man. This is when you want to be a face of an organization. And yes, you can make the argument that Dempsey was the captain, but I think that everyone always thought that Howard was the face of a national team. I don't understand it, and I just need more information.
Very good, very good.
Hey, thanks, man. All right, who's next?
I'll do it. I'll go next.
Pizza. All right. I'm watching the Little League World Series. Okay, here we go. Tell me whenever you're ready.
I'm ready.
All right, go ahead.
Now, this one, I might get some flack for it, but I've never been a man to shy away from saying what's on my mind. And today, it has been apparent that this ALS Water Bucket Challenge is getting out of hand.
Oh.
I think it started off as a positive thing. It started off maybe to awareness about ALS, but for the most part, for what I know, there is no cure for ALS. And usually when there's not a cure for something, there's not going to be a cure for something. I don't see how pouring a whole bunch of water on ourselves is going to help, this out. Because in the beginning, again, I felt like it was a good cause. Hey, these people are doing it, but then you got into the challenges. I challenge this person to do it. I challenge that person to do it. It was mainly for a good cause. Why would we have to challenge people to step up to the plate, to pour water on themselves? It was really to, turn this disease into a positive thing, if you will. It's getting to the point where people are being offended with all the wasted water. I know out here in California, we went through a bad drought, and people are using water to pour it on themselves. When in the city I live in, you can only use water on certain days. So it is a positive thing, but I think this positive thing is turning into a negative thing really, really quickly.
Very well said, my friend. Very well said. Man, that is so well said, man. Very good.
I appreciate that, man.
Yeah. So I mean, and I also heard that like people are doing the challenge and they're not donating.
Yeah, you're not donating. You're just pouring water on yourself. So it's pretty sad.
Drought with the warnings that we've had so much, and just wasting all that water.
Exactly. Yeah.
People that have lawns and everything like that to not water their lawns too much because of the water drought and everything like that. So they'd rather have people, even if they have good lawns, for the lawns to die and whatnot because of the water situation that we face in California. So that's one of the major things. All these people that are doing it and not donating it, especially here in California, not donating money, is the bad thing. Although there was the best one I saw was the Charlie Sheen's ALS, where he, instead of the IAC, did actual money, and all that money he poured on himself, he was sending to the ALS cause. So it's like, why can't you just do that instead? Just do an ALS challenge instead of the IAC. You'll turn it into money, and all that money that you poured yourself, send it to the ALS instead.
I saw this video where like this girl did it, and she was like, I don't even know like what this is for, but whatever, I'm just gonna pour it over my head. And it's like, if you don't even know what it's for, like, because ALS is such a scary disease, like you totally lose control of your muscles in your body, and you're basically just like a vegetable. Like, that's ridiculous to me. You can't eat, you can't go to the bathroom by yourself. Like, that's so scary. It's so scary, and it's like, and these rich people, and some rich people have it, like they donate $10 to do a thing, and I love that they're making people aware of it. I mean, the fact that we're sitting here talking about the disease is awesome, but at the same time, there are so many people that, especially in the world today, it's all about getting the view, it's all about getting the like, it's all about getting the retweet, the follow, and yes, there have been a ton of people who have done it for the right reasons and have donated even more than the $10 that they're required to do. A lot of people have donated, thousands and hundreds and stuff, and it's awesome. But so many other people don't know what it is, aren't donating, doing it for the like, doing it for the Facebook fame, and it's just so disgusting to me that this is happening, but whatever. All right. So, Tox, are you ready for your 10 seconds of fame? Or 30 seconds, whatever it is.
I'm ready.
All right.
For me, my topic is going to be on, I guess, since I haven't talked about the Giants really too much, since I haven't been on with you guys, I'm going to be talking about them and their situation and everything like that and all their injuries. It's just a sad thing. Like, they were so on the uprise in the beginning of the season, and then all of a sudden, they were getting injuries, and a lot of players weren't playing up to their potential later on. But some of them you can't fault, such as Brandon Belt with the concussion, dealing with concussion stuff. That's something that's definitely scary. You don't want to see people with concussions just playing in a sports game, especially with in baseball, where somebody can easily get hit if a pitcher is wild and not making those pitches. But the Giants, thinking also too during the trading period that they could get, it's definitely not something that could help them, as well as just Matt Cain's overall disappointment of injury plagues, and just a lot of that I guess was due to like bone spurs in his elbow and everything like that. They're saying that is his cause for having such a poor year and injury year, but I'm still kind of skeptical on that. I just think that because of the length of time he's been but the Giants is just getting up there in age.
Yeah.
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 Good point.
Great point, man. Quickly, if the DH were to come to the Giants, who do you think would be the DH? Pablo Sandoval?
Back in 2003, Barry Bonds.
Yeah.
And
Or would you put Posey there to keep his legs fresh?
I'd probably put Posey there, and then as well as put Michael Morse in there from time to time because Michael Morse is an injury-plagued player as well too, so you want to prevent him from getting injured.
See, but that's the thing again. Like, okay, so now we're like, oh, because you're such a weakling and because you're so soft and you get hurt all the time, we're gonna give you this easy job.
If I may, and I'm gonna compare it to football. Ain't nobody getting called Frank Gore soft, right? But I guarantee you, Frank Gore won't be the workhorse until late in the year and into the playoffs. Why we want to keep him fresh? If Buster Posey is more important in some games, his bat is more important than his glove, then I don't see a problem with putting him, in the DH role to save him to the playoffs. Because the whole point is to win championships. It ain't really, to protect people from injury. It's more so that to make sure you have these guys fresh and ready to go when it really counts.
Yeah, that would be good for at the end of the season when they're able to have a 42-man roster for the month of August, and as well as the end of or the beginning of September as well too, when they can look at new up and coming players and bring them up from the farm system. That's one positive thing. What you were saying, Dawkins, about that is having those superstars be able to take that DH spot and then put in one of the up and comers into that position for like a month and a half when they recall the 42-man roster.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Really quickly before we get out of here, the A's, are they going to make it to the playoffs or not?
I think the A's are still going to hang on and get at least one of the wild card spots. I'm pulling for them to catch up and surpass the Angels and take back the West. But like you said, the whole focusing on pitching experiment isn't really working this year. Hopefully they can turn it around because I do believe they'll still make it to the playoffs. But I'll miss Yo Winners.
You miss Yo. I know, man. Only Yo knows.
10:20 in return.
10:20 p.m. All right, sounds good.
You work. I don't work until 12, so it's not a big deal.
Yeah, I don't work tomorrow until tomorrow night.
So I double check. I just check our showtime. That's what I said.
All right, 10:20. That sounds good. All right. Awesome. All right, guys. Great show today, guys. Yay. Yay. All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks, everyone, for showing up. I really do appreciate it. Definitely, if you missed any of the show, as soon as it stops, it'll process, and then after that, you can watch it once again. We talked about the NFL preseason a little bit, Manziel and Hoyer. We then talked about women in sports. Is it ever going to be possible? I think we came to the conclusion that as long as it's not like a physical contact sport, it's possible. Not very probable, but it could possibly happen. And then we touched on our biggest disappointments in baseball, and then we talked about the DH a little bit. So it was definitely a good show. We'll be back here next Thursday, 6:30 Eastern Time, 5:30 Central Time, and 3:30 Pacific Time. Yes, I just did that correctly because I have it written down. Do you guys have anything else you want to say before we get out of here?
Stand up for what you believe in.
Nope.
Stand up for what you believe in. Be pissed off for greatness, baby. Madden comes out on Tuesday.
Yeah, people need to stop hating on Madden. Stop it. I was just playing NBA 2K, and I remember just how bad that game is. It's not bad. Let me not say it's not bad. It is a good game. It has things that piss people off. One, you be at the free throw line, you get an A-, and the ball does not go in. You get a C+, and it goes in. Logic. 2K logic. You pass the ball to somebody 5 feet in front of you, the ball sails over their head into the crowd. But somehow 2K is still the most popular sports game out there right now.
Yeah. It's all about the hype train, man.
It really is, man. It really is.
All right. But yes, that's it. Thanks everyone for watching, and we will see you guys next week. Deuces. Peace. Adios, amigo. Sayonara, sucker. All right.